Hi there, my name is Alex and welcome to my plant addiction. In this series, I just kind of want to share some tips and tricks of things that I've learned while caring for my 70 plus gazillion plants. Keep in mind, I'm not an expert, I'm just an enthusiaster. Okay, I'm just an enthusiast who, kind of picked up some things while caring for my plants. Okay. So, first off, when you're deciding to buy a plant, do not, do not buy a plant for a place in your house, right? The first lesson is buy the plant or buy a particular plant based on the location in your house. So, in other words, if it's a dark corner, do not go and buy a plant that needs a lot of sunlight or indirect light. Okay, and I'll explain what that terminology means in a second. The second thing, what does a plant need to survive? Kind of very similar to what humans need: sunlight, food, water, and something great to sit in, some sort of foundation, right? The substrate, the soil. Is it leca? Is it cocoa core? Is it peat moss? Is it orchid bark, right? Do you add charcoal or pumice? Or there are so many, okay? But the real experts, I feel like, are a combination between the plant itself and then the conditions of your home. Now, trust me, when I started buying plants, like many of you, I hit YouTube. I started looking up philodendron, pink princess, plant care. And I got some amazing information. But guess what? Based on where I place my philodendron, pink princesses in my home, really dictated how that plant was going to thrive and survive. So first and foremost, when you're choosing a plant, make sure the actual plant and the placement in your home are compatible. So we talked about what your plant needs to survive. Now, let's also talk about the things that you can do to cause its demise, right? The things that you can do to kind of, turn it into a weed, maybe, right? 6 simple things. Either overwatering will kill your plant, underwatering will kill your plant, too much sunlight will kill your plant, not enough sunlight will kill your plant. Buggies, pests will kill your plant if you don't treat them or catch them in time. And last but not least, believe it or not, overfeeding it or underfeeding it may cause it some stress. Okay? So let's talk about overwatering. Now, I thought overwatering was giving the actual plant too much water at one time. Overwatering means giving that plant water too frequently. So in other words, if you have something like a monstera, right, any version of a monstera sometimes can go maybe a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks with no water. An example of overwatering would be watering that monstera every week when you may not have to. It may be watering that monstera every 3 days, every 4 days, every 5 days. You know what I mean? Watering it basically too frequently. Okay. Now, by the way, I have some monstera and I actually keep them outside. Well, guess what? It's like 4 million degrees outside. So an exception to that rule, again, is where you place that plant. Because I have my monstera out in the elements, in the heat, which I'm pretty sure people will be like, don't put your plants out. Whatever, they're thriving actually. So because I have them outside in the heat, I have to water them more frequently because that hot air is going to evaporate out that water relatively quickly. Okay. So again, remember plant placement. And then once you have plant placement, now let's start talking about watering, overwatering, underwater, right? Too much sun, not enough sun. Right now we start getting into the nitty gritty of plant care. So if overwatering is watering too frequently, then underwatering by default is not watering enough. Okay, so if a monstera, it needs to be watered every 10 days and you're watering it every 20 days, that monstera is not going to like you. Okay, that monstera may decide to give you the middle finger and just die. Okay, or at least start to show signs of, crispy brown leaves, or, drooping leaves, just something to show you, hey, mama, hey, papa, I'm in distress. Now, remember, your plant is the real expert. So I do recommend absolutely learning about your species of plant, learning where they grow in the wild, learning like the do's and don'ts. And then once you get your actual plant in your environment, then you can see how that plant thrives in your environment. Now, here's a bit of a tricky topic: sunlight, or the light for your plant. I believe monsteras, as an example, grows in the rainforest, so they get some sunlight. They kind of come through. Again, enthusiast, not expert. And I'm pretty sure I can Google it, whatever. Anyway, sunlight, if you have a plant and it requires sunlight, that means the sun should be shining on, parts of your actual plant. Okay? If it calls for bright indirect light, then that just means that your plant can see the sky is bright, right? But the sun doesn't necessarily hit the plant directly. Anything else, medium, low light, whatever the case is, stick it in the corner, right? In other words, like this room that I'm in right now, this area here would be considered, bright light or bright sunlight or indirect sunlight, if you will. But, maybe back behind the camera where the plant cannot see the clouds at all or see the sky at all, that may be considered medium to low light. I hope that helps. So now that we've talked about overwatering, underwatering, sunlight, bright light, dim light, let's take a look at fertilizing, right? Like food. Plants need food, right? They need nutrients. You know what I mean? I would say to you here, again, pay attention to your plants' fertilizing schedule. Some plants need, they're on a different schedule. They need more fertilization, they need less fertilization. And then what's also key here too is the growing season, right? I think the time frame is somewhere from April-ish to like the beginning of fall. So the beginning of spring to the beginning of fall, that's your fertilization period. Again, pay attention to your plant's requirements, because in the winter months, when that is considered not the growth season, right? Plants don't need fertilization as much, but there are some species of plants where you can kind of still fertilize them in the winter months. I hope that makes sense. Buggies. Okay. Now, I don't know thrips and dips and hips and all of that stuff. I know about spider mites and, just all kinds of little critters who just love your plant, and your plant is their, sirloin steak. Okay. For me personally, I create my own mixture of peppermint oil, alcohol, water, and some sort of soap, you know what I mean, to basically I spray my plants down once a week to just kind of make sure that anything that's living on the leaves, I kill off. The other thing too, when it comes to kind of misting and or spraying your plants, I know plants, especially like monsteras, and yes, monsteras are the plant of the day, but I know especially like monsteras, you have to wipe that water off, right? Excuse me, not only that, but any sort of dust or debris needs to be wiped off your leaves, because critters and bugs love dust mites, right? It's a whole ecosystem of plant mite or bug life, circle of life. Now, let's talk about the roots of your plants and the foundation, the substrate. What is your plant sitting in? Some plants, again, monstera, you can actually propagate and grow them mugs in water. Even if you have them in water, you should still be fertilizing, by the way. Certain other plants, maybe you want to put in a soil mixture. And there are like all kinds of soil mixtures out there. Again, pay attention to your plants and your plant's requirements. Something like a Monstera needs a bit of a dry, chunky, well-draining soil. However, something like a Calathea, something like fern, certain types of fern, they may do better with more of a peat or a cocoa core, something that stays moist all the time. Whereas again, with the Monstera, it needs something well draining where the water goes in and the water is going to come right back out. But again, your plant instructions should actually detail all of that information. Now, by the way, you may say to yourself, well, Alex, why the hell are you making this video, right? If you're just telling me to pay attention to my plant. Because I'm trying to get you used to not watching videos like this and then doing the things that I did, was trying all the things that you saw on the videos and muck up your plant. Okay? The other thing too, which is like a big thing, trust me when I tell you, as I started to make this video, I ain't shine up none of my plants, right? They look, they are how they are, right? But most of the times when you see these videos on YouTube, their plants are all shiny and they're healthy and they're thriving. And that was something that I found was like the biggest misconception, right? A lot of people buy their plants huge and humongous, right? They, some people actually grow them from, little babies or, propagating them, but a lot of people will buy their plants as is and they look all healthy and green and great. And you're sitting over there like, well, why my plants are not looking like, baby, it's okay. It's okay. I was watching this one video on Instagram and the guy, he actually relieved my whole entire soul. He went out in like mall areas and, like it didn't look like a botanical garden, but it was some place that was plush and green. Okay. And the plants he showcased had their little burn marks and had their little crusty leaves and this, that, or the other. And his caption read, "Horticulturists take care of these plants, so don't be so hard on yourself when it comes to your own plant care." So my plant parents, I'm going to leave you with that note, okay? Learn your plant. Learn the personality of your plant. Learn how your plant is going to thrive in your environment, okay? They don't recommend moving your plants around, but sometimes I feel like I have OCD. I will move them mugs just for space and design, right? But I do think it's important to pay attention to your plant. A happy plant is going to perk up and be like, hey girl, hey. A sad plant will be like, what are you doing to me? Okay. So this video was really about pay attention to your plant. Like, screw the videos. Pay attention to your plant and provide it with those 4 things: light, water, food, and wonderful soil where those roots can thrive and grow and, expand. Okay. And then the other thing too, the 6 killers: overwatering, underwatering, too much light, not enough light, pests, and the wrong soil, by the way. You know what I mean? Over fertilizing was the 6th one. So I hope this helped. If it did, yeah, go ahead and like, subscribe, and, stay tuned for future videos. Mwah! Happy planting.